everybody, welcome back and thank you so much for joining me again today. We're not even at Super Booth yet and we're already starting to get flooded with some amazing new releases. Notably that leak from Oberheim, a little Take 5 but OB6 style, man, that's got me excited. And of course, most notably, the Digable Mk2. Now, as you may notice, I don't have a Digable Mk2, but we have Mk2 at home. Today, instead of gassing over gear that I don't have and I really want, I thought maybe we'd have some fun with a K.O.II. Now, I've had this little bad boy for about 4 months now, and it's really been surprising that every time I think that I'm kind of done with it, I start messing around with it and I find whole new dimensions of new things to explore, new musical ideas that come out, and it's very sneakily started to become one of my go-to groove boxes when I just want to have fun and mess around tweaking sounds. So today I thought I'd just share with you a jam that I'm making on the K.O.II and show you a few tips and tricks that I use to work around its limitations and actually make it a very fun device. So we're going to start out with Group A. Now, Group A has the drum kit. Just the clickiness of the keys. I don't know what it is. These are velocity sensitive, by the way, but the feel of it is, it's quite nice. It's difficult to explain. It's kind of like writing on a mechanical keyboard. It's enjoyable. I don't know why. Now, one of the first things that I like to do to work around the limitation of voices on this thing is use the delay on the drum kit. So let's say I have this drum pattern over here, and I want to fill it out a bit. If I start using too many voices, I might start choking out other groups that I don't want to. But if I put the fader into effects, and I have the effects on delay, then look what happens over here. Now, you have to be careful because if you go all the way, it'll drown out the initial kick, the initial percussion, so I usually keep it below 50%. I have a few samples here that I sampled from the Astrolab, and I have the Astrolab not as a prop here. I'm actually going to use it in just a second. And no, Arturia isn't sponsoring this, neither is Teenage Engineering. This is just me having fun. I'm not trying to influence anybody in here. You don't have to buy any of these things. You can do these with an SP404, with Ableton plugins. So what we have for starters is this. Pretty simple. Another thing that's great on the K.O.II is that you have an audio in. That audio in can also process the sound with the internal effects. Now, I'm not going to use the internal effects because this thing is already heavily processed. So let's try that intro again, now using the Astrolab as a little bit more flavor. Now, for scene number 2, I want to fill it out with some strings. And wouldn't you know it, we have some full strings right over here on the Astrolab. I want to record this into the K.O.II. Now, here's where we start running into limitations that don't seem to breed creativity. They're just limitations. For example, if I want to sample something, I have to hold down on this little button right here. So I've been using batteries here. So there we go. The second problem is you can't press play and sample at the same time. So I need to use a metronome. So since I'm recording with my phone for this front-facing angle, I don't have the metronome with me. So with the magic of post-production, I have recorded my sample in. Now in scene 3, we introduced this little sample right here that's a stock sample of the K.O.II, and we just use it chromatically. And you've probably seen this in my other videos. I like to do some re-triggering, play around with the velocity, and then play around with the shift. So let's see that in action. I mean, you gotta admit, this thing's really fun. So, I want to do a little transition, so I'm gonna take away the synths, I guess, and we're just gonna leave that little melody with the drums. But now we get to start playing with the drum group with the same way that I pitch shifted up and down with the fader. I'm gonna do that to give it some interest. love doing that pitch shift transition. It just gives it so much life. I find that that is much more controllable than the punch-in effects, and I have a little punch-in effect worked into this track where I kind of do that same pitch shifting thing, but I hold down the pitch shift and the low pass filter. So it goes like this. See, that's where it starts to get a bit annoying, because the level here, that effect, you have to get the velocity just right, the pressure on the finger just right for it to trigger the way that it's gonna sync with the tempo. So it's not that reliable. See, there I got it perfectly, but now I can get you in a hairy spot in a live situation. The same thing goes for the looper. So in the looper, you have this option over here. You go shift and loop. See, this is the problem. Sometimes the looper will kind of reset, because in the looper you can choose how long your loop is going to be. So for example, right here, I'm kind of looping the entire thing, or I can go half for that beat repeat, that very SP404 beat repeat. The problem is, there's two problems actually. One is that if I hold down tempo, it'll start filling out that loop, which is something that I wish I could turn off. And the other thing is that for some reason, it'll just reset itself when I really only wanted to have that tiny little beat repeat. That's the only kind of usable way I can use it. That is very fun, and I wish I could just, you know, keep it like locked in or something, so I didn't always have to worry that it's gonna start screwing around. The K.O.II is a conundrum. It's equal parts as inspiring as it is frustrating at times. It's kind of like a mini Octatrack, because like now I wish that everything came with a fader. On the Digable Mk2, the only thing missing from that is a slider. I wish it had that. Of course, it goes without saying that pairing a powerful synth with multiple options of sound palettes with a simple sampler is always the key to success. Be it MPC, SP404, this, you start looking around here for presets and you start recording and you just go. And that's why I love loopers so much also. Anyway, I digress. Before showing you everything put together and performing the track live, I wanted to leave you with a few thoughts. Superbooth is coming, and there are going to be some tough choices, both for you and for me. And I've had a lot of gear, like I've bought and sold tons by this point, way more than I would ever need. And the more I think about it, I can't help but feel that it all comes down to one question, and that is, what is your purpose? What is my purpose? What am I trying to accomplish here? Am I trying to jam? Am I trying to perform live in front of an audience? Am I trying to compose music commercially or for myself? Because the set of tools you'll need is completely different. If I want just to live perform, maybe the K.O.II is more than enough. If I want to compose, maybe I should just, you know, dispose of dollars altogether and just go on Ableton or Logic, whatever, and grab a mouse and keyboard and start composing. It's funny because we focus so much on what the gear does and what it comes with and what it isn't, and in the end, they're just tools. In the end, somebody has to be driving them. If you grab a sledgehammer when you need a screwdriver, it's never gonna work out, and that's a lesson that's kind of hard to learn in the musical space. I like to think that I'm starting to learn, and that hopefully I'll be more responsible with my purchases and, I don't know, maybe grow in the process. Anyway, just some thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video useful, or at least entertaining. Have a great week. See you next time.